Hey guys, just out for a walk with my service dog Story. Um, Wanted to talk about an issue that a lot of people run into. People have heard, I've never heard this said to me before, but people have implied it. And I've thought it about other people too before I knew any better. But people will be like, well, you don't look disabled, or I know other people who are younger than me will be looked at like, you look perfectly fine to me. Why do you need a service dog? Why do you need a handicap parking spot? But what people don't realize, and what I also didn't realize, is that there are disabilities where you can't see them. The person feels them, the disabled person feels them, but you wouldn't know it as an onlooker. For example, my dad has heart problems. He has a defibrillator and a pacemaker. And if you were to just look at him getting out of his car in a handicapped parking spot, you'd be like, well, obviously he can walk. I don't see why he has a handicapped parking spot. So, but you don't realize that he gets out of breath really easily. He's prone to pass out, and he has issues, even though you wouldn't be able to tell by looking at it. That is what they call invisible disabilities. So unfortunately, a lot of disabled people have invisible disabilities, and they get judged for it. So some of those invisible disabilities could be being diabetic. And so if you see somebody, I'm just naming, I'll name several more, but I'm just naming that one to start with. So let's say you see a young person walking along with a service dog, and the person looks perfectly healthy, just strutting along, not at a slow speed, obviously no mobility issues, and you're just like, oh, that's got to be a fake service dog. There's no way that 13-year-old who looks perfectly healthy can be disabled. And what you don't understand is that that service dog can detect blood changes in the blood sugar level and alert that young person to the fact that they're about to have an episode that could kill them. And the dog can give them pre-warning that they need to take their insulin or have some sugar or something that will help them to avoid going into a coma or possibly passing away. So even though this person looks young, healthy, vibrant, perfectly capable, energetic, that person has an invisible disability. Could be the same thing with like epilepsy. Could be something where somebody has to take a medication that makes them dizzy, so they are unbalanced. So they may have a service dog that has a handle coming off of their vest on the back to help them when they start to tip over, or they start to drift to one side too much, or they start to lose their balance. Then that handle gives them just enough balance that they can correct before they go over too far. And it doesn't necessarily put stress on the dog any more than if a grown-up is going to stand up and they put their hand on a 3-year-old's shoulder. They're not really pressing down on the shoulder of the 3-year-old, but that little tiny bit just gives them enough to maintain their balance as they're getting up. Some of the disabilities could include things like allergies. So, we wait till this car passes. So let's say somebody is deathly ill to a certain food item. A service dog can be trained to detect that item in somebody's food before the person takes a bite of it. You cannot guarantee, if you're allergic to something like peanuts, Like, my grandson is allergic to peanuts. Well, I'm around him so much, and obviously I know he's allergic to peanuts, so I'm not going to give him anything that has peanuts in it. But one thing that I tend to forget is that I could take him somewhere like Dairy Queen, and I'm not paying attention, but there's a little sign on their drive-through window that says that their food is fried in peanut oil. So it's easy to forget. So let's say I'm a person with a peanut allergy, and I forget that, or I don't realize that a certain restaurant uses peanuts in their recipe or uses peanut oil. Then the dog would be trained to detect it and alert me to it before I would have time to consume it and save my life, if that were me. Another disability that some people could have is lung diseases like asthma or cystic fibrosis or something like that, COPD, to where somebody needs to stop and rest and there's no place for them to rest. They can't catch their breath, so they will have a dog that's the right proportion with their height and weight, where they can lean over and brace themselves on the dog and kind of stand and rest. Or if they have to sit down where there's no place to sit and they get down on the floor, then when they get up, they can use the dog to brace themselves to help stand up. There are a lot of disabilities that cause weakness in the muscles, and so the person doesn't look disabled, but what you can't tell is that the person has no strength, and that dog is there to act as a counterweight or to give them forward momentum as they're walking. There could be somebody who has chronic back pain, or say it's intermittent back pain, where sometimes the back pain is so disabling that the person cannot bend over to pick their phone or their wallet if they drop it. So here comes a person walking down a grocery aisle with a service dog that looks perfectly healthy. But what you don't understand is that if they drop their wallet and they bend over to pick it up, they could become so incapacitated that they're down on their knees and they need help. So having the dog be able to pick something up for them is helping them to be able to perform daily tasks that a lot of us take for granted. There are service dogs for so many invisible disabilities. You just can't even imagine. If you go online and Google invisible disabilities and you find a website that has a list of invisible disabilities, it's not even a complete list, because I did it and I went to 3 or 4 different websites, and each website brought up certain disabilities that another website didn't. I've often, very often, gotten asked the question when I'm out in public with my service dog, "Oh, so is she yours, or are you training her for somebody?" And when I tell them she's mine, I feel like they're thinking what I've thought in the past when I've seen people who look perfectly healthy getting out of a car in a handicap parking spot, which is, that person doesn't look disabled. They must be using somebody else's placard, or how did they scam the system? And so I'm just as guilty of thinking that way as other people are now. But the thing is, I'm making this video to help educate people, because I wish that somebody would have told me these things before I was quick to judge. But one thing is, I would judge them in my mind, but I never said something like that to them out loud, because I do realize that I don't know everything, and I can be quick to judge somebody for something and be completely wrong about it. So I've never told anybody that out loud, like, "Oh, why do you have a," I might be thinking about it, but I've never said it out loud. I've never made accusations out loud against somebody. So please give people the benefit of the doubt. If you see somebody who looks healthy using a service dog or parking in a handicap parking spot, don't be so quick to judge them. Tell yourself in your mind that they must have something else going on that they're struggling with that you don't know about, and that you're never going to know about because you're not their doctor, and those are their part of their privacy rights to their medical information. They don't have to justify to you why they have the placard they have or why they have the service dog that they have. Just give them the benefit of the doubt. So I'm not going to talk about what my disabilities are. I have multiple disabilities that my service dog helps with. So if you're a service dog handler and you get told, wow, you don't look disabled, which I've never been told that, but if somebody did tell you that, then I've thought about what I would say. I would say, oh, so you can see somebody has diabetes, or you can see that they have epilepsy, or you can see that they have cancer. Well, you should have gone into the medical field because you can diagnose people with just looking at them and not doing any testing. Do you realize how much money you could save people on their insurance? I heard somebody post a response. Well, I wish I could think of the channel right now, but it's somebody who I just started watching, about when somebody says, oh, I should just go out and buy a vest and a harness for my dog so I can take them anywhere with me. And the person said that what they would say is just, if only it were that easy. You don't realize how much training they have to go through, like hundreds, or my dog went through thousands of hours of training. And no, that doesn't make her perfect, but she knows how to behave in public, and she's passed a test, multiple tests, to prove that she can behave in public, and she's not a danger to other animals. And also, to that person who said, I wish I could just buy a vest for my dog and take him everywhere with me, that person is fortunate enough to not have a disability that they have to deal with. Because sure, maybe it's a novelty at first taking the dog everywhere with you, but when you have no choice but to take it with you, then it can become a burden. It's not easy to have to think about preparing your dog to get up and go out, or taking your dog out in the rain and getting it dressed and ready to go in bad weather, getting out of the car at the store and having to get your raincoat on your dog too. So it might seem like a fun thing, but after a while, I guess I just get used to it, but it's not easy to have to take extra time to do everything because you have another soul there with you that you are responsible for. So I guess that's all I really wanted to say. I'll think of more stuff as I'm editing the video, I'm sure. Maybe I'll throw something on at the end.